Hi, and welcome to today's video. In this one I'm going to be looking at pine trees. I spent last week trying to get a pine tree into my system. A lot of things went wrong. I learned a lot, but first let me show you where I've gotten to and how I managed to get this performant. So what we have here are just the last little tip with needles on it. This really is just the building block, and I'll come to that. But you can see that it's completely 3D. If you zoom out from the top, there's a lovely feeling to it. There's enough levels of detail built that when I tilt down, that crossover is almost invisible where it switches LODs. And this is partially because I've built 6 different LODs of just this little piece already. And then if we look at performance, if I turn this on, I'm running at 165 frames per second. You can see at this point 57% of my frame time is empty, and I'm only using 25% of that time to render all of this. And even when I go out to smaller LODs, that drops to 12-13%. It's a total of 0.8 milliseconds at this stage. So very, very good scaling as you add detail onto this system. It really doesn't fall apart when you get here. The lovely thing about having each needle built individually is that we have these lovely wind animations. I can really turn it up. They all swing. There's no feeling of leaf cards that all swing together. This will of course be amazing if you do this in VR, because the two eyes will actually see each individual needle separately. So really looking forward to that somewhere in the near future. And there you can see as well 1.3 milliseconds for the scene as it is here. And just awesome the way it's working right now. But without further ado, let's step into the mess of last week and how I fixed it to get here. So for that, let's load. We go to a single mesh in the middle, but instead of this one, and I'm going to hide the performance counter for a little bit, but let's load, where's my high res stem? So last week I said about, and I realized I needed to change a couple of things. Quickly gotten in there. Especially the way that I was generating, so I was handling age wrong. Age is the total of number of nodes grown over a season, but I was really specifying age from the tip to from the root to the tip of a branch, and that's just wrong. Trees grow and plants grow at the tip. So really I rewrote it that all ages are relative, and huge improvement. I then went out, built a pine needle, built a quick little stem here. You can see that its age is 7, so it has 7 growth rings. At each of those, it adds 16 pine needles in for us. I will run through all of these in a different one. All looked fine. I really liked it. It looked pretty good. It animates well. Animates really lovely. It has a nice bit of volume to it. But it harbors a secret, and that comes in. If you look over here, you can see that we have 113 pine needles using 1033 vertices at this stage in this mesh. So the problem that this had was that I could only build 4 possible LODs out of this. You have this one, just a billboard, and it really should be used at that distance maximum. The second one is a higher resolution billboard, and I'll explain later on why these two are split. There are very good reasons for it, for performance. By the third one I've introduced, I still have a bit of a core billboard, so the billboard itself is smaller, but I've introduced some leaves, and then the fourth one has all of the leaves in it. The problem that you see is that this fourth one has 1,000 verts. The second one starts to look ugly. It still has 992. This one, interesting, has, oh, I know why it says 32. This one actually only has, it has only what, 8 vertices in it, but the renderer, in order to be efficient, groups everything into blocks of 2. Meaning this actually has, oh, there you can see it, it has unused vertices. Not great, also not the worst. They take up a bit of memory, but they, the vertex shader at this stage is so quick that it doesn't actually impact performance. But if we now take this and we go build all LODs and we place them in this world, oh, please ignore that. I see that I never fixed the baking on this, and I'm not going to change it for today's video. This is an old one that I'm never going to use. If we do this and we turn performance back on, but let's just hide that. I don't need to see all of that right now. What you'll see is that it actually tells us, well, that is interesting. I'm misreading. Oh no, I'm not misreading my own graph. It's just that that number is so stupidly big for some reason. It feels like a bug to me. Anyway, if you look at this graph, you will see that it tells you exactly how many million tries each of these levels of detail add. Number 0 is not shown on this. It only shows number 1, 2, and 3. And you can see 0.01, 1.12, and 1.89. So in fact, it's this middle one, the one with 992 vertices, that is the worst one of the lot. It's that one actually. That is our worst performer in terms of performance. And you can see that this scene, even though it's a little bit on the sparse side, more than 2 milliseconds to render, the performance just isn't good. And it turned out the main problem here is just that there's no way to properly load any sort of mesh that contains more than 100 children like that. There's no way to load it. There's no proper information in the system. You can randomly drop stuff. You can try to combine it, but it really just doesn't exist. Anyway, so what needed to happen in the end was that I went back to a system I was going to build for grasses anyway called clumps. And you'll be familiar with clumps. It really, let's open a clump. Let's go back to a single one and load, what would I've got there, let's do the pine needle tip as a clump. Oh, sorry, I need to build full resolution. So a clump is really just a collection item. It tells you that you have a certain size here. I really should change that because the size is currently in millimeters, but I could make that, let's go centimeter, let's go 5 centimeters. It tells you that you have a certain aspect ratio, and this will squeeze it into an oval in different directions. And then it tells you how many children you want to add to this. So it's a very quick and easy way. There's a little bit of rules for how much they bend outwards on the side, etc. So concept of a clump, very simple, very useful for grasses. I mean, that will become clear. Soon. Let's just turn this window off because this thing sways as if it's on the stem as well. And let's just reload this. I don't want to, I definitely don't want to modify that. Build full resolution. And the whole idea of clumps was that I was going to clump little bits of needles together in a way like this, and then do a new stem. So pine leaf cluster over here and build full resolution. And this one consists of clumps. So you can see now, instead of just dumping a whole bunch of needles onto the stem, we've gone and dumped side clamps all on the sides, and there's currently 6 of them, and we have this tip clamp at the tip. And the reason to do the tip clamp differently is that the side ones are angled very specifically to the stem, and for the tip clamp you want one that just follows that line perfectly along. If we go and stretch this out, where's the length? So if we just stretch the stem silly and ignore that I'll talk about why that happens in a minute, you can see these 6 clumps that we've added on the side, and you can see that those are they are not radial, they are linear clumps. So this, if you inside a clump, this switches between radial, and there you can see radial and scatters outwards, or linear. And the nice thing is with a linear clump, I can use child angle to rotate them relative to the stem, all of these little leaves that we're spawning. So let's just do that, and we can save that and come back here and pull the length back down to something fairly okay. In fact, let's just, I don't want to mess with that, let's just reload this whole thing again. So the lovely thing that clumps allows us to do is to build very many more levels of detail. So instead of the previous one where I stuck at 4 and there was really nothing else I could do, for this one I've got 6. We still have this very basic billboard if you're extremely far away. But the next one, and this is the beauty of clumps, the next one already uses 32 vertices, and you can see here that it's actually 3-dimensional. Each of the little clumps are now a billboard on its own, meaning that if you look at it from the top, instead of getting that flat billboard thing, there's actually some 3D to this. It should be used at about that sort of size, and that has a 3D feel when you rotate around it. The next one does the same, but it starts to add in just a couple of the leaves. Let's zoom in quite close. So it's still pretty much a billboard plant, but it adds a couple of the bigger pine needles on the edge. And this just helps us on that crossover to start to get a feeling that there is actually stuff rotating around. It still should be used at about that distance. It starts to fill that in for us. Sorry, the next one, still pretty much that, but it adds in quite a bit more needles. So as you get closer, you get more and more needles. And then the very last one, just 3-dimensional needles. I'll talk about the core. No, I'll talk about the core in a different video. So the awesome part here is that you end up with a system with clumps that you can build many levels of detail for this. And if I now go build all LODs and we go and sit here and we examine this, you can see that now we are at 0.01 million triangles, 0.2, 0.27, 0.21, 0.34. So all of a sudden, we've balanced this out, and all of the different levels from, I mean, there in the distance you can see lot 0 and 1 and 2. In here I can't even tell what's what, but these closest ones at lot 5, the full resolution ones, you can see that we only spend 0.34 million triangles on them, and suddenly our total frame time has gone from more than 2 milliseconds to the sort of 1.6 region with increased quality. And as I said, probably the 2 best things about this is, one, the animations look fantastic because each pine needle has 7 or 8 spots along its length, so it can really bend in ways that looks awesome. The second thing is that there are so many of these. I'll do this once again from this sort of from about that sort of a height. Let's hide, not that. Let's hide my whole user interface. But if you do that and you scroll down like this, that flip is almost not noticeable. And that is fantastic. It's a pure flip. There's no dither. All of that dithering between LODs it's a separate draw call. It's more geometry to process. It's one of those things that looks like a win but acts like a loss to us in games. So by having many LODs, I'm saving on that process. And yeah, in the end, it is just performant and it looks gorgeous. And let's be honest, well, my opinion, but at 165 frames per second and only using what was that? 24% of the total frame for this sort of level of quality, absolutely bring it on. I'd love to see this in a game. Anyway, that is my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please ask. If there's anything specific you want me to look at, also just drop a note in the comments below. I will respond to all of them. And the coming week is all going to be... No, it's probably the best part of 2 weeks, but the coming block of work is all going to be to try and get this onto the end of a pine tree itself and get a full tree on screen. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Thanks. Bye.